Insignia, welcome. We're going to be having our Remembrance Day service here starting momentarily. I first want to thank everyone for being here today. We have lots of honored guests here, distinguished people sitting in here, all spaced out. And with the technology that we have today, we're able to live stream this to not only classrooms across all of our school here, but all across Onion Lake, to other schools, and to other communities, anyone that has the link right now. My name is Kevin Spahid, and I just wanted to take a moment and thank you for letting me be a part of this ceremony today. And I feel like a part of the community, having worked here now for almost 12 years. Hi. The first thing we're going to be doing is presented by the Warrior Society Powwow Singers. They're going to be performing the grand entry, so those who are able, if you could stand for this, we will have that, followed by the flag bearers, the Eagle Staff Carriers, and we're going to be having a flag song, then a victory song, and then finally, O Canada. After that, we will have opening remarks by the Director of Education, Fred Dillon. Hi. They are getting ready outside momentarily. We'll be just a moment. This is the first time we've done this at Saskaskohc High School, so we're just ironing out some things. But I think the timing of this is also really nice. We have this ceremony today, with Remembrance Day being tomorrow, and only 2 short days ago, a day specifically dedicated to the First Nations contributions in conflicts around the world on November 8th. I'm just going to double check here if they are ready. All right, we are ready now for the grand entry. our drummers, singers, fellow dancers. Very powerful drum. Lots of people here clapping along as well. A lot of power in the drum. If you could remain standing now for O Canada, please.
To thee belong, in all thy sons command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, all true and strong and free. All far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God be thy glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard. O Canada, with heights and eagles grow. Prairie spread, and forth rivers flow. How dear to us thy broad domain, from east to west and sea. How narrow, how wide, how true, how strong and free. God be thy glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
You may be seated. I don't recall the last time that I heard the full rendition of Canada's national anthem. It's been a little while. This nation in Canada here would cease to be what it is without the First Nations contributions in past conflicts. And it's, like I said before, an honor to be a part of the ceremony today. Beside me here, some of you might have been looking on. This is Blaise Oasis. He's going to be helping me out today with the ceremony. As people take their seats here now, we're going to ask for Mr. Fred Dillon if he can make his way over here for some opening remarks. I think the technology is amazing that right now this ceremony isn't just for the 30 or 40 people in this room, but there are people all over the school watching us right now. No stress. But as well in the other schools across Onion Lake, in the heart of Treaty 6 territory, which is where we are right now. So if we can get Mr. Dillon to make his way up for opening remarks. There it is. Hi.
Mr. Oscar, Tenasiman, of the Namoya Magazine. I'd like to welcome everybody. I'd like to give thanks to the drum group for an awesome performance plus the dancers. And on behalf of Bonnie Lake Education, welcome to our Remembrance Day ceremony. And you know, it's just an honor just to stand here on behalf of education, and I'm sure leadership will talk afterwards anyways. But you know, one thing I'm a strong believer is the tribute aspect of First Nations of who we are. Just imagine, I've just been thinking about this. If it wasn't for our freedom, we wouldn't have that. And you know, to all our dignitaries and the people that sit in front here that played a role in for us to attain this freedom, hats off to you guys, big time. You know, I have a lot of respect for all the people that went to war, especially these three that sit to my right, to my left. You know, all the stories that Mr. Chobin had told me that he went through using war, where culture or identity has pretty much guided him with an eagle feather. And those are just great stories that he used to tell me, and I'm sure he has more. And again, if we can have our students, hopefully they can understand why we have, or we do this ceremony every year. I know tomorrow is Remembrance Day, but we're having it here because we're having these classes tomorrow. So for the ones that are listening on in the Zoom line, I guess, make sure your students do a report of some sort. Why it's important to have freedom. If it wasn't for freedom, we wouldn't be sitting here. If it wasn't for freedom, we wouldn't have choices. Again, thanks to the freedom that we have because of the people that fought for our country, that's an honor. So again, on behalf of on the education, hi.
Hi, Mr. Dillon. To echo that, I'd like to say too, in a world that's become so divisive, something like war actually brought a lot of people in this country, First Nations and non-First Nations, together. And I think there's a lot of unification in that. So please take a moment, not just today or tomorrow, but to remember, and if you know anyone that has served, to give, to thank them for what they have done and continue to do. We're going to have the last post performed now, typical and traditional of Remembrance Day ceremonies. Followed by that, we will have 2 minutes of silence to reflect on that. Now, a moment of silence.
My name is Rachel Watsis, and I'll be reading the Finders Field, a poem from John Free. In Finders Fields, the poppies glow, between the crosses row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky the larks still regularly singing fly. Scars heard amid the dense glow, we are the dead, short days ago. We lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow. Loved, and we were loved, and now we lie in Finders Fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you, from failing hands we throw. The torch be yours to hold it high, if ye brave faith with us who die. We shall not sleep through Poppy's Grave and Finders Fields. I'll be now reading an essay written by Patience Fox from the Native Studies Student. Indigenous Veterans Day. Thousands of Indigenous Métis, Inuit women and men served in the wars. Many of them overcame challenges to join the armed forces, such as learning to speak English, adjusting to different cultures, and leaving their families and communities. They joined in honor and pride and dedication. I messed up. I'll start over, sorry. Thousands of Indigenous Métis, Inuit women and men served in the wars. Many of them overcame challenges to join the armed forces, such as learning English, adjusting to different cultures, and leaving their families and communities. They joined in honor and pride to protect our peace and human rights, which they themselves were often refused. Many joined to escape colonial constraints that still exist in many forms to this day. They all put their time into training to help fight for our freedom and peace. They are all full of bravery, passion, and dedication. Many of them served on the front lines, and many of them never returned home yet. They are not as recognized as official Remembrance Day ceremonies, so that is why we created Indigenous Veterans Day. Every year on November 8th, we pause and think about the Indigenous people who served with the armed forces for our country, even though their land was getting stripped away from them. They all deserve to be treated with the same dignity, respect, and appreciation that Canada affords their non-Indigenous comrades. But instead, the Indigenous Métis and Inuit people return home to a country that still treats them like second-class citizens without benefits. I think it is very important that non-Indigenous people learn stories and appreciate that thousands of Indigenous people have sacrificed their lives for the future of our country. So every day from now and and November 8th, we honor the ones who lost their lives and the ones who are around to this day. We honor and respect them for their sacrifices. They all have helped build a more peaceful and prosperous world. So that's what
Hi, Blaze. As one person who is non-First Nations, I want to thank Blaze for sharing that. It takes a lot of courage to come up here and speak in front of people, but I also want to recognize, I know I'm just one small voice from the non-Native community, but thank all First Nation people who have served in the past and continue to serve in Canada. We have with us today, we're very blessed to have some guest speakers that are going to share some of their stories and their thoughts on what this day is, and I think bring a lot of meaning to it. The first one that we're going to have today, coming up here to speak, is George Trottier. So we could invite him up to speak for a few moments.
Creative for inviting me for life and a safe road to travel this morning when we get here. As I was coming, I was watching the sunrise coming over. It was still dark. And I was remembering those times coming home from missions. A lot of it was good, and some of it wasn't so good. Especially this time of year for me, it's a little hard. Seeing some friends fall right before Veterans Day or right on Veterans Day, as well as myself having to do some tasks that had to be done, or else I know I probably wouldn't be here. And it takes a toll on me sometimes. I know that it's hard because it's time that I had to do something. It wasn't very nice for me. It still haunts me sometimes. It's just the fact that taking somebody's life so you can come home or whatever. But my thought to that is, that person probably had family to go home to as well. And, I like to say it's do or die. Wherever you serve, you just make sure you come home safe. And said a little prayer at that time. And but that's the hard part for me, being able to to accept it and move on, try to. And from then on, I decided to take all the good that I seen and learned from over there and to leave the ugly part of it. And I know that life is precious because I've seen it go in the blink of an eye a lot of times. And that stuff's the ugly part that I've seen, and it's hard to erase it, if you will. But every day I'm thankful for making it home. I've got grandkids now, and I'm very blessed with that. But I just wanted to share with you a little poem that I found that was kind of, I guess, pretty meaningful to me. And I'll see if I can find it and share it with you. It's called Freedom is Not Free. Freedom is not free. It was the veteran, not the journalist, who gave us freedom for the press. It was the veteran, not the poet, who gave us freedom of speech. It was the veteran, not the campus organizer, who gave us freedom of demonstration. It was the veteran. Those who salute the flag, those who serve beneath the flag, and those and whose coffins were draped with the flag, who purchased our freedom. If you love your freedom, think of that. And that has a lot of meaning. And serving with the U.S. Army, and once I was released from serving, I understood what freedom was, because I had to commit myself to serve. And I wasn't technically free, but I was still free from seeing my family and whatnot. But there's a little bit of honor with freedom with there, and it means a lot to me as well. So with the kids, I guess my word for them is to never give up and remember where you come from and who you are, and be proud of where you come from, and being able to serve at that time. I think I presented myself the best as I can to represent Onion Lake and my people here in my community. I was always proud to say that I was from Onion Lake. And with that, I just want to say thank you for inviting me, Saskaskohc community, school staff, and everybody else, Counselor Joe, hey, he's coming now, yeah, that's from. Other than that, I want to thank you all. Sakit nga kapkyo, it's.
All right. Hi, George for speaking to us today. I would like to reintroduce Sandy Joe.
Danse kadnaga kapita simunta. Tapi situs kami umagising. Igan nanaskumak. mamutawin ma, kasi minagisi ka nanas ko man. Kamu kata bukit, semakin sila na bukit. Tapto man ibama, igiskisya. That is something that I've learned through my experience. Is nanas ko man, tapto sila. It doesn't matter where I am, if I'm on the road or if I'm sitting someplace or kapamut yaman. I always have to remember that I always have to acknowledge the Creator for allowing me another day on this earth. When I was sent overseas, my culture, my language helped me a lot. That first one was in 1991 when the Desert Storm broke up. It would, out of 800 of our battalion, there was 24 of us that were chosen to go to Extima, Saddam Hussein no escape but there was 24 of us that were chosen. And while my great grandfather knew that I was going to be sent over. And just before we were deployed, we were given a week off to come home to our families, to spend some time with our families before we were sent over. That next morning, I say, in the kitchen, I was sitting in the kitchen having breakfast with my dad. And I woke up and I went and joined him. It was the guy with the mood. He told me that we were going to have a sweat lodge. It was the so that sweat lodge was for, he was going to give me a garden. So during the sweat lodge, during the ceremony, I was given the spirit of the bear and the spirit of the eagle. So a week before we were to deploy, we got stood down because something happened. So in 1993, when Bosnia broke out, we went in as a dance party, basically reconnaissance. And then we stayed there for 2 weeks, and then we started flying everybody over our whole battalion. And that was my first time like I couldn't really explain it because it was almost like going back into jump back into time where we were living in the 1990s here. Going over there, it was almost jumping back to the 1920s, 1930s. They were very poor. He used to always tell me, make sure you have your eagle feather. They're going to arrowhead, when you went on patrols, I used to always pray to my guardians to make sure that they looked after me. And some of the things that we went through, sometimes I think to myself, I often ask myself, like, how did I manage to come out of there? I was just telling my friend here, on a 4-man patrol in the mountains, I was the last guy back, and there were 3 guys ahead of me. I was 2 IC, I basically covered the back. And we were going into a mountain pass. And for some reason, just a little speck of blue. And And I had my rucksack and I was bending over, trying to get under the willows. I saw that and I stopped and I took out my binoculars and I looked at it and I, geez, we hit an IED. When I traced that tripwire, it ran right between my feet. All the three guys ahead of me stepped over it. I told them to come back, prod their way back. So they took their bayonets and they prodded their way back towards me. And my sergeant asked me, like, where is it? And I told him they used up on binoculars. So he told me to mark it. So I marked it with a little piece of ribbon tape. And then we were probably 200 meters off the highway, off the pavement. So he told me to lead the way and I started prodding my way back, just a little, probably about 2-foot path, trying to get back to the highway. 50 meters back, Hasemi with the Gamskala. We found another one 50 meters back and it was the exact same. So we marked that one and we went to the hard pack and we called the engineers and the engineers came over and I led them back to where we marked the IEDs. And the good thing about that was when everybody stepped over the tripwire, there was also another tripwire that went this way. So if somebody tried to disarm it, they would set that other one on. And basically, it was a grenade on a little stake that was covered with grass, leaves, whatever they could find. And it was wrapped around with detonator cord. And that detonator cord went 4 feet. And under the ground was a big juice can. And inside that big juice can were 5 sticks of dynamite. And the rest was filled with nuts, bolts, screws, nails, nothing. It was a homemade clay. So that grenade was supposed to take out the first guy and send a delayed charge to the second guy, and that was supposed to take out everybody else. That happened June 23rd, 1993. There are 3 days that you always remember. The day you deployed, the day you almost got killed, and the day you came home. When I was deployed on March 27th. That day that happened was June 23rd. And when I came home, it was on my sister's birthday, October. Those 3 days always stick to me. My brother knows your baby. There's a lot of things that go on, and that's just not. That was just the tip of the iceberg of what we had to go through. You studied geography, months, and that's. I'm thankful for Facebook because that's how we finally were able to, in Saskaskohc, you become part of a brotherhood with the guys who serve. I always say this, that the loneliest part in your life you've ever experienced is being at war. Because your family's not there, but your other family is there. And that's usually the guy standing beside you. It's the young man. And that's the only family you have to console each other. And with Facebook, it's in Saskaskohc. And we still talk to this day. And Wapahuma, Remembrance Day, we always come together, man. We always chat. And we always talk about the things that we did, what happened. Pero giwanihan, ijawagan mo, sam stayuma, himaptanina, hikapasi, hisikot, Jesus. It was one of our guys, and he was the biggest guy. He was the toughest guy that I knew. And mentally, it was too much for him. And he just left. And he was homeless from 1995 to about 2 years ago. I was teaching Cree at ES Laird, Lloyd, when I received the text, and it was him. Where were you? It got too much for me. He was homeless for all that time. I know si Rama Saskaskohc, I would give you the my brothers, they see that. Coming home, you don't really come home. Physically, you come home from something like that. But the emotional part, the mental part, and the spiritual part, it takes a long time for them to finally to balance out so that you are able to be home. It took about a good 10, 15 years before I felt like I was home. I had to battle the mental part of it, the spiritual part, the emotional part. And Saturday, every Remembrance Day, I feel like there's something missing. About your Japan, he's okay, that way of going. He told me that someday I'd have to face my fears and go get part of my spirit that I left it, because that part of the spirit is still here. And the emotional part is my family were very supportive. So we would just stay on a ceremony that I had Mr. Dillon. And ask Mama because as a soldier and coming back into the world, I had to make sure those four were balanced. If they were unbalanced, I had to find a way to deal with the mental, the emotional, the physical, and the spiritual. So I'm staying on my culture. Itapo dito. Niyakas naman. He's been very subtle. And he got too much to think about. So, that's all I wanted to share with you is, as First Nations people, there are some places that you have to take care of. It's not just about our physical being, it's our mental, our emotional, our spiritual. So, I ask you, you'll be singing to come here.
Hi, Mr. Chokin. One gift that Mr. Chokin has is the ability for storytelling. I've had an opportunity to get to know him over the years, and most recently at the boys' camp, and he does have many different stories, and some of them are, I think, really relevant on a day like today when much of, I think, what we hear about Remembrance Day somewhat romanticizes the idea when, in reality, there are so many things that go on in war countries, in conflicts that people don't know about and people don't want to know about, and I think it's very difficult as well for people like Mr. Chokin to share those stories, and I just want to take a moment to thank him as well as George Trottier for being here today. And also I found out, I actually didn't know this today, I've known Terry Clark for 11 years now, and I didn't know that he also served. So thank you, gentlemen, all three of you, for being here today and for your service. I have a list I had to give to Angie. Hopefully she can bring that back up to me. We're going to be doing a laying of wreaths next. So we're going to be reading out veterans' names, people who have part of the Onion Lake community. And I'm going to be reading out names as I go through the list. When I get to some of the names, there are family members here today. When I get to those names, if they could come up, they're going to be laying wreaths up. Oh, the others are, okay. But we do have as well blankets that we'll be handing out to them as well. So that's what I'm going to do next year is I'm going to be reading the names of those who served. And if I do make a mistake on one of the names. I do apologize here because I don't mean any disrespect at all. Hopefully I get most of them right. The first one, John Bangs. Philip William Bangs. Ellie Lapine. George Roy. Ed Sampson. E. Sampson. Edward Sampson. I don't know if Ed and Edward are the same person or not. It might be two different ones. The names that I just read off were all people who had served in the World War I conflict. Next, in the World War II conflict, Albert Belly. You guys have a family member here? Gerald Belly. You can come up now and, oh, they're gonna bring one over, I think. Yeah, they're gonna bring one over to you. You guys can take them up to you. Victor Harper. Well, you guys can bring those out to them. You guys are taking those out? I think, Howard, are you bringing those ones out to them? Okay. So we'll start again at the top. So again, this is World War II veterans, and they do have family members here. Albert Belly. Also serving in World War II, Victor Harper. David John. Victor Mahatis. Ed McCready. Edward Paul. Edwin Paul. John Paul. And Lawrence Quinney. Those names were of people who served in the Second World War conflict. The next four names served in the Korean conflict, and just before I read them, they have family members all here as well. I just want to share a quick story about Korea as well. My grandfather served in the Navy, and when he was in Nova Scotia, he met my grandma and was out at her farm visiting, and his ship deployed without him to Korea, and they couldn't reach him because he was at the farm with my grandma at the time, which was 2 hours from Halifax, and the ship sailed without him, and that ship was torpedoed, and all of his colleagues that he served with died in the Korean conflict. And he told me that story, I think, many years after it happened. But the Korean conflict is certainly more recent, and I think whether it was something that happened a long time ago or not, it's something that is not that distant in the past. So I'm going to read the names here of people from Onion Lake who served in that. First one, Arthur Dillon. Charles Dillon. Eric Dillon. And Joe Stick. The next three names that I'll be reading also have family members here in attendance with us today. Are members of the Canadian Forces who served or are serving in the Canadian Forces. The first one, Ryan Carter. I believe Mary Wynn is here. Sandy Chokin, who spoke earlier. I don't know where else he was deployed, but he was in Bosnia. And my father actually came from Croatia, and I know that Sandy had spent time there. And our principal, Mark Pelly's wife, is from Bosnia. And I know the first time that she ever met and heard from Sandy and the experiences in her country and what he had done there, she was in tears. Somebody that's a world away and someone here in the community had such a big impact on someone that seems like they're a world away. And that's currently our principal's wife, who lived through a lot of the horrendous situations that were going on there, as Sandy did explain some of that. The last one, Ronnie Jimmy. We also had the opportunity today to listen to George Trottier, who's also up here, who has served with the U.S. Army. And he did mention one thing in his speech as well, that he mentioned Veterans Day. And those of you who might not be aware that in the United States, they also observe a day to remember those who have served. And in Canada, we call it Remembrance Day. In the United States, it's called Veterans Day. So thank you to George as well for coming up and sharing. There's also two more names I'm going to add to this that are connected with the Onion Lake community, but not from here. First one, Bill, and I might not know this, Pichow from Frog Lake, also served in Korea. And Terry Clark, who's up here, is the Assistant Director of Education in Montreal. Sorry, doesn't want me to dwell on that one. And this one got cut off, but I'm thinking it says Canadian RE. I don't know if that's Canadian Rangers, perhaps, or Reserves, maybe, Canadian Reserves. And that's Matthew McDonald from Onion Lake. And the last name that I have on the list here from serving in World War II, Paul Bignell, who it says Manitoba on here as well. So I don't know if they were from Onion Lake and maybe moved to Manitoba, perhaps. That was in World War II. So that's a fairly exhaustive list of names of people who have taken, you know, in some cases the ultimate sacrifice, but have served their country and their communities in ways that we don't always realize. So hi, thank you very much to all of them for their service. Oh, that's who it was, Pauline Muskiego's grandfather? Your father? Okay. Well, hi. Yeah, perhaps in the future we can put beside them the family members out here as well. I know family is really important. I've listened at many of the cultural camps to the connections between who's related to who, and I think that really can help when we're putting these things together. Probably lots of you know these people and how to connect them better than I do, but perhaps that's something we can do in the future. So if we could have all of those now with wreaths to come up and lay their wreaths on the stands that are up here in the front. Do that now, please. we're online, and those of you that are here, the wreaths that were laid here by representatives from the different schools across Onion Lake First Nation. The first one represents Eagle View. The second one is Chief Taylor. The third one, Saskaskohc. That's what I was told. What's the third? Oh, Saskaskohc is the fourth one. So that would mean Bewa Senegwin is in the middle. And at the very end is Kiha-Woodston. Next, we'll have Darwin come up here for a moment, and Darwin Woodson will share some things as well.
Hi, hi. What it is, the Bianisa, with the Saskaskohc, Mamotawi Mao, Sewasu, and Saint Mawapatiwa, Kutakis, with Mawibo, Saskaskohc, and Utato, Utatos Kahagana, Kapi Sigits Kahana. Si Toscaro is Swingo, Anato Wingo, Luxani say once, say one two. Paga, you go meet Tanto, with the Wemana, Mountainatum. I see you, they you, Indo, Tanegu, Agopa, Managa Media. Mapate no masarang ni juga aku pa. Baga, agi basement naman. Lista. Yung no, paswa mostos. Pahit, muitsewama. Kami gimano. Ya kasi mo, they represent. Yung paswa mostos. Untago. I just wanted to say once again, hi, thank you to the Creator, Mantu, for loaning us another day. Yes, sometimes we say He gave us another day, but we need to remember life is loaned to us, and the Creator can take that life when He feels we don't own our lives. For those of you that are wondering why the blankets are given out, and I know a lot of people have questioned what the purpose is for these blankets. These blankets represent one of the Creator's helpers. In order for us to survive, one of the major helpers was the buffalo. And the buffalo provided its skin, the fur, for teepees, for clothing, for anything that we used. And these blankets represent that buffalo hide, that blanket, that buffalo blanket that we use. So just to clarify, when one is thinking what the purpose the blankets are for, that's for that reason. It represents that buffalo hide. So that's all I wanted to share. Hi.
Hi, Darwin. Yeah, sometimes we don't always know the origins of things, and it is really wonderful to hear from people to explain things that might not always we might not always be able to understand that. So thank you for sharing that about the blankets. My wife years ago got one for presenting at our school, and I didn't know the significance there and the connection with that buffalo. One thing that I noticed that most of you probably can't see up here is that earlier when Blaze read in Flanders Fields, there's actually a Cree version that we have up here too. I wasn't sure if he was going to read that or not, but if anybody's interested after the ceremony to see that, it is up here on this nice laminated piece that we have up here as well. So you can come up and take a look at that later, unless you want to read it. So before we conclude, we are going to have one more speaker come up in just a moment, and that is going to be Joe Waskowicz Jr. He's the newest elected member to Chief of Council, newest councilor in Onion Lake. But before he comes up, I do want to just take one more moment to thank everybody that was a part of today, both those who have served in the past and who are here today to share with us stories and help us reflect on how important it is to remember the sacrifices that have been made by people, by First Nations people in the past. As well, we have RCMP here today, and we have Whisker Wash, which put a lot of work into coordinating and making sure this can go out to all our schools, as well as our school here. So, and I know there's people in other buildings as well. So what we're seeing today here, this group of maybe 40 or 50 people, it's actually much larger than that. And my understanding is the classrooms all across Onion Lake are watching the service today. So hopefully that all went through well, and I know there's a lot of organization there. The drummers, the dancers, a lot of people have been involved in making this possible, and I just want to take a moment and say hi to all of you. So with that, we're going to have Mr. Waskowicz, Joe, come on up here. He's going to be doing some closing remarks, and after he's done, there's going to be a round of, oh man, from a distance, I thought he was sitting over there the whole time. So after that, we're going to have a round dance, and that'll conclude today's ceremonies. Hi.
That's all my take wing it. Kat kyo ka dum skat na, utaw no we honi ochen. Minum ta kiska o wiwa, minum ta kiskiano. Kisko gitsao. Kete. Don gewino kai. Don gestamava. Kois kapmatsya. Kat kiska o kakashkino kyan. Mga ngetan ay kitam. I would like to thank everybody involved in today's ceremony. A big thank you to everybody, the elders that spoke and played for us this morning, singers, organizers, and most of all, the veterans that are alive, that are here with us today, and the ones that have passed on, the families representing them today. Growing up, I've always wanted to go in the Army. That was my big thing growing up. And me and my sisters, we used to play by the road. And every time a cop went by, we went like this and salute them as they went by. But this one particular day, most of you older people will remember the old RCMP cars that had just that one light in the center of the roof. They used to call them the thing of charity light or something like that. But anyways, I seen this truck, this vehicle coming down. It had that thing in the center, and it looked like a police car coming down the road. So I told my sister, get up, we want to do this. And sure enough, as I got closer, we went like this. And as it went by, there was a truck with a thing sticking in the middle, it looked like a cop car. I think that's the last time I did that. But anyways, I've always wanted to be in the Army growing up. I thought it would be a policeman first and then join the Army. But luckily I didn't. With that, I'd like to thank all the veterans that have made us free to live a free life, where they went over and sacrificed their lives. Some of them didn't come back. And some of the stories, and every one of them would have a different story coming back, like Mr. Chokin said, Mustache and George Stretch and Mustache and others that have different stories. They remember different things, the things that they've gone through every day. And you have to look at the freedom that we have today and what they had to go through. The nightmares of what's gonna be coming tomorrow? Are we gonna survive it? Those are many questions they probably had every day. And the other one we should not forget is, Ryan Carter. He's another one of our veterans that are still alive today. What is Remembrance Day? It is, they say these gentlemen on November 11th hour, 11th day, we should remember them every day. Because what they went through is not we want today or back then. So in closing, I would like to say, on behalf of the leadership, we say thank you to all the veterans, the three gentlemen that are here today. On behalf of the leadership, we thank you and we salute you. That's it.
Hey, who else would? So to conclude, just to clarify, when I said round dance, we're going to have a song called Soldier Boy by the Black Lodge group. I hope I got that right. And then that's a veterans, I guess, remembrance or reflect on song. And after that, there'll be the retreat song where the dancers will go back out. So we have two songs, and that will then officially conclude the Remembrance Day ceremonies here in Onion Lake. Treaty 6 territory. Again, hi, everybody involved, and I appreciate being able to be a part of today. As we do the retreat song, we're going to have the Eagle Scouts and the dancers retreat. As they came in, they're going to go the same way as they came in. They're going to leave that way as well.